Have you ever wondered about the people who live in your community? Someone who may be world renowned could possibly live right next door to you? Well, it turns out that in this humble home, just outside the small town of Hickory, Pennsylvania, lives a wild bird artist that has attracted attention from around the globe. I recently had the chance to sit down and talk with this gentleman about his work and his life. A truly fascinating story. And the gentleman that I just mentioned, who are sitting here with him right now, Mr. Frank M. Hnat. Mr. Hnat, thank you for joining us here today.
You're welcome.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to give a general introduction for some of our viewers who might not be familiar with your work. What is it you actually do?
Well, I'm a wild bird artist, and what I do is primarily North American wild birds, and I draw them to realism. The actual bird that I usually get mounts from the museum, Carnegie Museum of Natural History, and I draw from these. This way, I'm able to get the exact detail of all the birds and the exact colors.
Right. Well, did this interest of drawing and painting, did that start at an early age for you?
You know, it's funny you ask, but way back when I was in Carnegie Mellon, at that time it was Carnegie Tech, we used to go to the museum and sketch animals or birds, and primarily what I did was sketch birds. And here I am a few years later, sketching birds and drawing birds.
So after those years that you were in college, when you started to get into a career, did that love of drawing and sketching, did that sort of move your career choices one way or another? You wanted to pursue something like that?
Well, as you know, I was in graphic arts for 35 years, and primarily I did everything, to suit a customer. And then I decided, with the computers coming in, I decided I wanted to do something my way, and I wanted to do it without anyone telling me what to do. And for the love of birds, first of all, I started with waterfowl, which is a bird, and then I got into wildlife, and then ended up doing wild birds.
So, and I understand that you actually had your own company set up with graphic design, and you actually had artists working for you?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a large firm in Pittsburgh that I employed 10 artists, and a brother of mine, Ed, who was also an artist. And we had major accounts that we worked on, and primarily some of the things that I use today, like the pastels and the graphite pencil, these were the kind of the medium that we use for doing and sketching our drawings.
I see. And I imagine that has to be a pretty demanding field to work in.
It was quite demanding, yeah. I had at least 50 deadlines per week, and we had to execute those deadlines to the time that the customer wanted them.
And did you have any sort of way of getting away from that? It had to be pretty stressful.
Well, there was a stress, and there was a lot of tension. So what I decided to do, I thought I needed something just a little bit different. So I got into farming, and the type of farming that I did was raised Hereford cattle, which was quite exciting. I had no idea what it was all about. I didn't know one cow from the next, but I learned, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And really, it saved the tension that I was used to doing, and it kind of relieved a lot of that.
Sort of a way to get away from everything.
Exactly.
Also, I wanted to ask you, how long were you in that field?
For 35 years.
35 years.
And it was an interesting business, and I loved every minute of it. I loved the selling part of it. I loved the execution. And my job primarily was creativity. I was the creative person that actually took in every job and created it from the start, and then given it to one of the artists to execute.
And did you ever want to share your knowledge of drawing and sketching with other people?
I do this on a regular basis. I go to schools, and especially some of my grandkids, which I have 19 of. I go to their various schools and to other schools too, where my grandchildren aren't. And I try to share some of my knowledge and experience and show people how I start drawings and how I execute them and how I finish them.
And I understand that a good deal of your work has been used in national publications.
Correct. They're used in national publication, and I also license my work to about 15 different companies throughout the country.
And you also produce your own calendar every year. You've been doing that for a while, I understand?
Right. I've been doing it now for 17 years. I'm on my 18th one now, doing the 2006. The 2005 is just finished. And every year I do 12. Actually, I do maybe 50 drawings per year or more. But 12 of the best drawings I take and put into the calendar. And I sell them throughout the United States, Canada, even down in South America. They're being sold.
Now, when you go to do a painting, do you go out and observe the different wildlife you may be using in the painting, or anything like that? Basically, how do you prepare to go into a painting?
Well, I kind of started trying to get an idea of sketching it on paper. And then one of the nice things about living in a rural area here is all the props that I need. I just go to the backwoods or to the front stream or to the pond that I have. And, you know, if it's water, if it's cattails, if it's different leaves of various trees, I have it right at my, just handy, that I could use it at any time. And if I'm drawing like a limb of a tree or so, I just go in the backwoods, pick out a limb of a tree or certain leaves, especially in the fall when the leaves are so nice. Just cut off a branch and bring it back to the studio and draw it.
And I know you mentioned earlier you actually use models from the Carnegie Museum, was it, for your drawings?
Correct.
Different types of birds and such.
Right. And there's they have a program at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History where you can go in and borrow just about any species of birds, animals, whatever you need. In most cases, I borrow the birds. And they have it, it's a loan program that you loan. They loan it to you for a couple of weeks. If you need it longer, they let you use it a little bit longer. But this way, using those models, I can get the exact bird, exact look, exact color, rather than through photography. Photography, you always get different variations of color, whereas on an actual mount, you get the actual color.
I see. And you do all your work in a studio you have here in your home?
Pretty much so. I observe a lot on the outside, and sometimes I take pictures of cattails or weeds. And a lot of times I just put an ordinary flowers, wildflowers into my pictures on here, just to give it a rural, pretty much, the actual scene, like seeing a bird in a rural area amongst the trees, amongst the flowers, amongst the weeds. I try to make it as realistic as possible.
And on an average, how much would you say about every year, how many paintings you come out with on an average?
On an average, I do at least 50 paintings. They're drawings rather than paintings because I actually draw the pictures and then color them. And the mediums that I use is pastels and also watercolors.
I see. Well, I know we mentioned earlier you actually have your studio here. Would it be possible we could take a look and see if anything you're working on now?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to show you how I started drawing from the very initial concept to the very end. But what I have, like on the drawing board, I just started this morning, and I'll show you how I started drawing. And this is the way, even when I was in graphics, this is exactly the way I used to design. I'd put everything down on the paper, just little sketches, and usually the very first sketch that I put down is usually the sketch I end up drawing with. Even if I made 12 sketches, it's usually the first one that I usually use.
Okay, so we